So I made the switch to Mac over a year ago and have not regretted it in the slightest. But which MacBook Pro should you buy? Starting off, we have the 13-inch model. I've actually done quite a lot of coverage on this particular product, having made several videos on it. This model has a dual-core i7 processor, which to be honest is a little bit strange, no dedicated graphics, and only a 128GB SSD. We also have the 15-inch model, which is my personal machine that I use every day. While still being thinner than the 3DS, this model features a quad-core i7 at 2.8GHz, dedicated Radeon M370 graphics, 16GB of RAM, and a 512GB SSD. So obviously in the 15-inch there is a noticeable spec boost. Now I actually started off with a 13-inch MacBook Pro, as it was lighter, smaller and cheaper. However, at this point I could always edit on a Mac Pro. Recently though, that hasn't been available, so I made the switch to a 15-inch model. But was it worth it? When it comes to build quality, both fantastic, featuring metal construction, fantastic screens, and considering the metal construction, they are also both fairly light. The 13-inch MacBook Pro is £3.8 and the 15-inch MacBook is £4.49, meaning that the 13-inch is considerably lighter. When it comes to performance, however, there is definitely a clear winner. Due to the quad-core i7, more RAM and dedicated graphics, the 15-inch model significantly outperforms the 13-inch model. For example, in Geekbench 3, the 13-inch received a single-core score of 3,440 and a multi-core score of 7,440. But the 15-inch model received a score of 3,480 on the single-core score, so pretty close here. But the winner of this test is clearly shown when the 15-inch model received a multi-core score of 13,150. The 15-inch model also has considerably better speakers. Here is a test. When it comes to video editing, I tested both the 13-inch model and the 15-inch model in Final Cut Pro 10 with the same 3-minute 1080p TLD timeline, and the 13-inch rendered this out in 1 minute and 49 seconds, however the 15-inch model rendered this out in 1 minute and 5 seconds. I'll leave the link to the footage I use in the description of this video, but if recreating this test, make sure that background rendering is turned off and the footage is not transcoded. Now, while there wasn't that much of a difference in Final Cut video editing, what there was a massive difference in was 3D generators. I used the Universe 2 plugin in Final Cut to create this Team Sesh style aesthetic, and the 13-inch MacBook Pro took over 7 minutes, and the 15-inch MacBook Pro rendered this out in just under 2 minutes. In fact, the only time the 13-inch model beat the 15-inch model was in a disk test using Blackmagic speed test. However, this was to be expected as the 13-inch model has a lot less storage. When it comes to gaming, I would not recommend it whatsoever on the 13-inch model, as I really couldn't get any games at all to have a consistent frame rate over 30 frames per second, but on the 15-inch, gaming really wasn't that difficult. I could play Overwatch over 80 frames per second, I could play Metro Last Light, I could play so many different games on this MacBook, and the only thing that actually restricts the 15-inch MacBook is the operating system. So if the MacBook Pro has been boot camped, it can run most games. Overall, which MacBook Pro should be bought in 2017? If you're just doing light tasks such as note-taking and accounts, I would recommend the 13-inch, but if you need more power, then I would 100% recommend the 15-inch model. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And there's one thing left to say, and that is bye.